Welcome to the podcast Above the Cloud, Stories from the Boardroom. In every episode, we interview business leaders who are navigating the complex world of B2B marketing. Whether you're trying to grow revenue, swoop into a new market, or launch new products, we promise you've landed in the right spot. And now your host, Richard Byrd.
All right, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Miss Jaclyn Townsend, and she's the Vice President of Marketing for TGS. Jaclyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you asking me to be on.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have you here. I know your schedule has been crazy, so I just really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Well, so the first question we ask on this show, is a bit of a tradition, is if your company was a bird, what kind of bird would you be?
You know, it's funny, before I joined the podcast, I was kind of reviewing other people's answers on the podcast. And I found somebody's to be really funny to listen to all of the different, and insightful, to all the different birds. But I will answer on behalf of myself and then what I think the company would be.
Okay.
And if I had to be a bird, I think I like harmony. So I'm the type of person that just likes to make sure that things get done, but also that everybody is aligned. So if I were a bird, it would probably be a dove, full of hope and peace and love and all those things that, you know, are true to me. But I think if TGS could be a bird, I think it would be an eagle, because we always kind of have our eye on something, whether, you know, it's a new technology, a new investment. I always feel like we're ahead of the curve. And so as an eagle, you kind of have to have, you know, line of sight everywhere. And I feel like that is who TGS is. And, you know, our leadership over the years has been great in kind of directing us to where we need to be as the market changes and evolves. So that would be my answer in terms of myself, but also TGS.
I love it. And I like how it's contrasty, right? You got the peaceful dove and you got the eagle. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. Eagle eye. You know, doves are interesting because they're birds that mate for life. And so if you ever notice, when you see a dove in your backyard, you always see two of them.
Uh-huh.
And if you don't see two of them, it's because something bad happened to one of the doves. But yeah, so you're on the lookout for that. There's, you know, always, if you just see one, look around a little bit more and you'll probably see another one. Somebody told me that and I didn't realize it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like, oh, they're in twos. Well, so Jaclyn, you've had a really interesting career. And why don't you tell the audience, you know, how you got your start and where it all began for you and how you got to where you're at today?
So I am a born and raised Houstonian, which I believe is a rare thing these days because our city is so diverse and there's so many people kind of in and out from all over the world. But I was born and raised here and went to University of Houston. And at that time, probably like many college students, well, at least the ones that I knew, didn't really know what I wanted to do per se. So, you know, I chose a path in a certain direction. It was actually education, and quickly realized that was not for me. So I, you know, had to pick another major because, you know, money's on the line, time is on the line, and I just needed to figure it out. So I decided to go into business, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I went, you know, to the counselor, kind of talked it through, and chose marketing. And that's what I graduated with a degree in, was a business degree in marketing. And that was a while ago. And when I finished college, and I was working throughout college, mainly at like legal firms, legal assistant, things like that, you know, working my way through college and also going to college as well. When I graduated, my mom was actually working at a company called Acker, which is now Acker Solutions, and mentioned that the VP of marketing was looking for a new graduate from the University of Houston. I interviewed, I got the job. And to be honest, I didn't know exactly what the job was about. It was from marketing analyst to support sales and business development, kind of like what Salesforce does today, but a more manual process. So it's kind of in charge of like keeping track of, you know, upcoming sales and, you know, developments in technology and things like that. And started the job, had a team, and I think 6 to 8 weeks into that, most of the marketing team was let go. There was a restructuring of the company. And I was basically, it was me and one other person, the graphics person, I think like an internal marketing person, like part-time. And that was it. So, and they basically said, we're keeping you and you just need to figure it out, basically. So it was a challenge. It was scary. I really didn't know what to expect. I just knew there was a lot of things that needed to be done and I was willing to do it. And I guess if people know me personally, I'm just kind of a get it done type of person. Even if I don't really know what I'm doing, I will figure it out. And that's what I had to do. I mean, they were like, there's this trade show coming up. What's a trade show? I didn't know. I was hired on as an analyst. And it's called Offshore Technology Conference. It's at, back in the day, it was called Reliant. You have to set up a booth. And I'm like, what's a booth? How do I do these things? So I'm on the phone with the organizers of the Offshore Technology Conference. They're probably thinking, who is this person? What's going on? I'm like, why do I need electricity for a booth? How do I determine, how do I get a booth built? And they're like, well, here's some people you can call. And then I had to figure out a budget. And I mean, I was just kind of thrown into it. I did have some support with other colleagues around the world, but it was kind of up to me to, lead it and figure it out. I also had people within that building who worked for different sectors of Aker at that time to help me and guide me, but it was kind of all on me. And so that was kind of my first year. And then, I had to figure out what an ad was, how to, who are all these publications that I have to place an ad with, who's developing the content, how do I get creative, So at that time, it was working with a lot of agencies because we had, it was just me and a designer, so it was a lot of learning, but I was willing to learn. And I think looking back, that's really what shaped me and grew my passion for marketing, like understanding that I am helping this business, grow by, bringing awareness to our key customers, making sure people understand who we are, not only as a corporation, but what products and services we sell. I mean, basic things, but to me, it was so big at that time because I was also learning about the business and then trying to promote the business and learning how to do that all at the same time. So just being thrown into it, kind of understanding the challenges of, my stakeholders, but also the challenges I was facing was, I don't think I could have set it up better for me to really dive into everything marketing at that time. Because remember, I was just supposed to do this one tiny little job and then it ended up being everything. So that's how I started my career. I worked for Aker Caverna and they actually rebranded to Aker Solutions when I was there. I left shortly after that and I went to work for a company called Surcell. And then I went to a company called Microseismic and then ended up at TGS. And it's just been an evolution of responsibilities, leading teams, and again, just understanding the business to help them meet their objectives. That's the goal for any marketer, is to really be in tune with the company that you're working for so that you can understand and help them grow. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love that story because, it's just like, next up, who's in line? And all of a sudden you look around and you're like, oh, it's me. I'm the person who has to step up and do all this stuff. But that's what definitely we call drinking from the fire hydrant, just trying to learn. And I can imagine that you're, for those who don't know, OTC is a fairly high profile trade show for the oil and gas industry. And it's a big deal. I don't know what year that was, but that it was they had massive attendance. It was the biggest trade show.
It was in the heyday when it was massive, when it took up all of Reliant and the Astrodome and outside and whatever space.
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds and thousands of people attending. So that,
yeah.
And it wasn't even it wasn't a 10 by 10 booth. It wasn't like a pop-up. It was a 70 by 80 two-decker, double-decker trade show booth.
Wow. No pressure at all. There's nothing like learning on the big stage, right?
Yeah, we figured it out.
Oh man. And there's, the thing I I always think about trade shows. I don't like trade shows, by the way. It's kind of a dirty secret about me as a marketer. I should love them, but because I always feel like there's like so many things that can go on. It's just a million details, and if you miss one detail, you're never going to hear the end of it. Even if it's something silly like the people that had to work the booth didn't like the coffee. Like, you're going to hear about that coffee for the rest of the year. They're going to complain about the coffee, or the padding for the carpet was not thick enough and their feet hurt. You're just gonna hear about it like nonstop. It drives me crazy.
It's customer service next level, and you have to have a thick skin because you can't please everybody. At the end of the day, we're not there to put up a booth for TGS people. We're there to put up a booth for our customers and create engaging experience, right? So those types of things. I mean, I'm at the beginning of my career, I did take those things to heart, and now it's okay.
Yeah, it's like you'll get over it.
We'll take note of it, and we'll make sure we address it next time. Our global events manager is a champ. She has to manage so many events. TGS attends we used to attend close to 100 events a year, but we scaled down. But still, we attend a lot of events. So she has it down. Her team has it down, and we run into those challenges. But at the same time, those types of events also drive value, depending where you're at, especially in different countries like Brazil and Africa, where customer relationships are huge. And having that personal interaction and creating that experience for our sales and business development teams is really important. So, it's kind of a catch-22 in terms of execution and making sure all the stakeholders are happy, but they can actually really drive value too. So we've got to do it, and it's the main channel for a lot of.
I know I said I didn't like them, and I don't like working them, but I do appreciate the value of them big time, because I think we've seen a big upswing on trade shows lately. I think the last couple of years, especially, people are really driving a lot of value at trade shows, and they're really doing a lot of business there. And I think maybe it's a hangover from COVID, where I think even when the pandemic was over and people were going back to trade shows and those types of things, we saw a ramp up, and now it is like at fever pitch, and people really want to get out and attend these trade shows and learn from their peers. And I always say trade shows are really good for three things. It's like people only go there for three reasons. It's like to see their old friends, learn about technology, and see what the industry is doing as a whole. And so that's, it's like, if you're delivering those three things for clients at the trade show, you're gonna have a great booth.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about TGS. So how for the people who don't know who TGS is, tell me a little bit about what you guys do, and then maybe a little bit about your team and what your marketing team does here.
Well, the elevator pitch, which every good marketer should know about their company, is that TGS is the leading integrated energy data company, and we provide advanced technology and solutions across the energy value chain. So our core business, which is basically rooted in geoscience, decades of geoscience expertise, helps exploration companies make the best and smartest decisions for exploration and production worldwide. So our customers are, the big NOCs, the majors, everybody in between. And again, at the end of the day, our job is to come alongside our customers to really help them in those exploration decisions, providing the best subsurface data and acquisition technology and imaging technology that we can provide to help them make, their decisions for exploration. Our mission at TGS is to enable energy for all. So it's interesting because, I think a lot of people, whatever your opinion is of the energy industry, we're always going to need it. And our CEO actually reposted a quote from the Petrobras CEO, who said, and I have to read it because I can't remember what she said, but she said verbatim, there is no future for an oil company without exploration, because that's how we replenish reserves. Exploration is absolutely mandatory and must be continuous. So without exploration, we have no energy, essentially. We don't have oil and gas, and we all need oil and gas to make the world go round. And there's even countries that don't have what we have, what we're privileged to have in Western countries, the energy and access to energy. So, there's still a lot of work to be done in providing energy to those areas around the world that still need it. So, oil and gas is here to stay. And so is TGS. We have, the tools and the expertise and the solutions to provide those companies who are exploring with the right data that they need to make the best decisions, for their investment.
Yeah, you guys, I've always followed TGS for a long time, even when I was on the competitor side of you guys. And you have amazing, super talented people there and amazing technology and all those things. I don't think people realize how much a seismic company is just a technology company. So much goes into it.
Exactly. And that really is our focus. We do what we can to make sure that we're investing in the most, robust technology advancements, not only from a marketing perspective, but from a company perspective. We're always exploring those new opportunities. And you asked about, what does the TGS marketing team look like? Well, we're small and nimble. We all wear a lot of hats. We recently merged with one of our biggest competitors, PGS. And so we were able to grow our team a little bit, but, in scale, we're servicing more customers, more government, more stakeholders. So we have to get creative. We act as kind of a marketing agency internally. So we have, specialized resources from digital marketing to creative to content and strategy. But we have to have focus, right? TGS offers a lot of different products and services, hundreds if you're including the different seismic surveys around the world. So it's important for us to be aligned with the business objectives. So I think a lot of marketing teams can struggle with what do we focus on, right? Because so my thing is we're not a taco truck. You don't come in and put your order in. You get what you want. Sometimes you do, depending, sometimes you do, if it's aligned with the business objectives. And this is something I've been saying to my team for a long time. And when they watch this, they'll probably have a little chuckle because, we try to be strategic. And I think it's really important for any marketing team, no matter what business you're in, is to be very aligned, not only with your sales team, of course, but also where's the business going? What is its 5-year plan? How can marketing help drive business growth? That will then provide you the focus that you need. And so that's kind of how we work. And things change, and that's okay. And I also think it's really important to be agile as well, so that's kind of how we're structured as a marketing team. At the end of the day, our job is to support the business and help it grow.
That is such a great attitude to have in a in-house marketing department. We've seen other companies who, they kind of treat their internal clients like just kind of pain in the neck coworkers. Oh, here they come, ask us for work again, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, you're a cost center. You should treat them like an internal. You should treat them like a client. You should treat them like you're an agency, and you have one big client, and you service that client like you would if you were running an agency. And if you do that, they're gonna love you.
Yeah, well, our stakeholders, our sales and business development teams, our executive team, our imaging and technology team, are our clients. We have to engage with them and understand, our external customers. But at the end of the day, we also have to equip our sales and business development teams with the right tools they need to be able to market, to sell, et cetera. So I agree with you on that for sure.
That's the focus of this podcast is always talking to sales and marketing professionals and in technical industries or industries that are tough. And I can't think of many industries that are more technical than seismic. How many PhDs do you work with on a daily basis?
Well, that's one of my favorite things, actually, is with all the smart people I get to work with. We're always learning. At least I can only speak for myself, but I feel like I'm always learning, whether it's from geotechnical expert or, a data analyst or somebody on the GIS team. I mean, there's always something to learn at TGS. So that's what I enjoy. I get to work with a bunch of smart people all the time and, hopefully make the sales and business development teams look good.
I love it. Yeah, that to me is the best thing about working with technical companies is the smart people you get to meet. I just cannot, you walk into a room and you go, well, it didn't take me very long to figure out I'm not the smartest person in this room. Oh, I love it. So how many people are on your team?
I think it's 14, 14, 15, something like that. But we scale when we need to in terms of working with freelancers and things like that, if the budget permits. But with technology evolving in the marketing space, like AI, we are able to do quite a bit on our own. You can't replace people. I understand that, but it does allow for us to work smarter, and, scale what we can put out there in terms of content.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that a little bit more later, because I think, AI is definitely here to stay, and we see it as such a efficiency gain for generating content and for doing research, and desk research has changed forever. I mean, it's just, like we haven't even used it that long, but I'm like, how archaic does Google search sound now, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I sat there for hours going and looking at a bunch of stupid websites that weren't really what I was looking for hours on end.
It's amazing what the capabilities are.
Yeah. Well, so how long have you been in your role now?
Well, I've been with TGS for 6.5 years.
Wow.
And have had a few different roles as the company's evolved and all the mergers and acquisitions we've made. So I was hired on as the director of global marketing, and then was director of corporate marketing, and now VP of marketing. I've been in the role for 3-ish years, something like that.
Well, what's one thing now that you wish you had known on day one?
That's okay to challenge the status quo, like right away. I feel like, not that we were doing things wrong or anything like that. It's just, I feel like whenever you start a new role, there's like a period in which you kind of have to wait and understand. Yeah. Sometimes there's politics. Fortunately, there's bureaucracy. But from a marketing standpoint, I think it's okay. Again, as long as you're aligned with the executive team and the core objectives of the business, it's okay to make changes. And sometimes ripping off the Band-Aid sooner is better. And I think there are some instances where I would have done things slightly differently, or been maybe a bit more bold with, hey, no, this is what I think needs to happen. And, sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is no, this is the way we want to go. And, it's important to listen. And it's important to be agile, but I think that would be my biggest wish you would have known on day one. But you have to approach those things carefully. Now, with experience, obviously, in knowing TGS and kind of wearing the TGS sweater, I understand more now that there's more flexibility to do that, and so that would be my number one thing. It's okay to challenge the status quo sooner rather than what you have planned.
I love that. Yeah, and I think you're right too. You touched on there's got to be a little bit of a balance when you come into a new place. You do have to learn and see what's going on, and get a sense of what the ground truth is. But I'm also a rip the Band-Aid off fast kind of guy. It's like, come on, we know what we need to do. Let's go. One thing, I got some really good coaching early in my career, and because I was like really gung-ho when I got my first management role, and I was like, we're going to stop doing that, and we're never doing that again, and all these things. And my boss said, look, hold on, slow down. Like, don't tear down a gate until you know what it's keeping out. And I thought, good point. And so I think that I needed to be tempered back to be slower, right? And I think that was some of the best advice I've ever got in a management role. You can.
I would also add, and this is kind of just over the past few years, like don't over process yourself. Like processes are necessary. Okay. Especially if you have a larger team. But processes can also weigh you down and delay things. Like just get it done. Let's just get it done.
Yeah, no, you're right. I probably err more on the side of what you just described. Let's just go. Why do we need a process for this? But luckily, I've processed people in my organization and go, right, slow down.
Processes, but just maybe not for everything, or maybe it just needs to be a 1, 2, 3 step process, not
Yeah, a 48-step process where
Yeah.
everything's out. Well, because I think one of the things that I would say is I feel like business is changing so fast, right? So what if you have a really regimented, super strong process and it doesn't include AI? Well, you're not gonna use AI because it's not part of the process, right? It wasn't in anybody's process 2 years ago in marketing.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be flexibility, right, built into the processes. But anyway, yeah, that would be in my other.
So from a sales and marketing perspective, what do you see as the biggest obstacles in your industry?
In our industry, the biggest obstacle from my perspective is breaking through the noise in a highly technical industry, especially when your competition is kind of doing the same thing. So from a marketing perspective, it's, making sure that we're differentiating ourselves and really driving the value of what it is that we do. And a lot of it is technical. And so, especially when buyers are really focused on price over anything else, over quality, over insights, over service, this requires like a continuous education and storytelling that, reemphasizing our differentiators, reemphasizing, the value that we bring to them. It goes back to the positioning work that, should be done before you put anything out. Who are our customers? What are their pain points? And what value can we bring to them? How can we help them? So I think from our industry's perspective, which has gotten a little bit smaller over the years, you're kind of fighting for that voice. And, technical marketing has been, a big focus for us, which it is for, anyone in the industry, really. Making sure that we're there to really drive value for our customers. So I would say that that's the biggest obstacle, is just kind of cutting through the noise. And we think we have all these channels, but we really don't. We've got, a handful of channels that the rest of your competitors and, the rest of the vendors are all trying to fight for, screen time. And everybody has the attention span of a goldfish these days. So you've got to be quick, but it also has to be meaningful. And we can talk about this when we talk about AI, but that's just so you know, most marketers know when other marketers are using AI. So my goal is like, okay, we're going to use AI, but we can't be like everybody else using the same words and, positioning things the same. We went to a trade show recently, and our marketing reps on the ground made a comment that it looked like the rest of everyone used AI. And because they were using the same words, the same call to actions. So you have to be careful when you use AI, trying to break through the noise and trying to differentiate. I mean, you really do need that human aspect because it does make a difference.
Oh man, I've noticed that same trend. And I think, like for me, the value of AI is to use it as a brainstorming tool or whatever, but it's never should be your final product. Like without having gone through the human lens and humanized it or made it closer to your brand and what you're trying to do as a company and what your goals are, because AI is just this amalgamation of like everybody's goals and what they're trying to achieve. The other thing you hit on there that I really liked, and I think this is so true for almost every technical industry that we work with, is yes, there's millions of channels out there, but really using those channels to get to a certain set of eyeballs, right? Mm-hmm. And if those eyeballs are only on 6 of your channels, then guess what? Anything that you spend outside of those 6 channels is a waste of money. you're gonna have to explain that negative ROI on those channels, right?
Yep, exactly.
What would you say? What would you say is the biggest misconception about your industry?
I think one of them, like if we're talking about just the industry as a whole and not necessarily TGS or anything like that, is that I just heard, not from people in the industry, maybe people who don't know the ins and outs of the energy industry, is that the industry can be slow to innovate. It's kind of like an old school kind of industry, right? So in reality, we're constantly advancing, leveraging things like AI, leveraging things like cloud computing and new imaging technologies. So I think it's easy, if you're not in the energy industry, to think like, oh, well, you're just going out there and drilling a well and getting some oil. What else can you do, right? And so I think that we're always innovating, right? Like now we have cleaner energy. Now we have more sustainable ways of acquiring data, for instance. So I think that's a big misconception. And of course that we're the big bad oil companies that are, destroying the earth. That's just not the case. So I think those would probably be the biggest misconceptions of our industry.
Yeah. What about for TGS? What are there any misconceptions about you guys specifically?
I don't think so. I mean, we're pretty straightforward. We've been around for over 40 years, and we work with some of the biggest oil and gas major companies in the world. I believe that, just from hearing our customers and the feedback from our sales and business development teams, that we are a trusted partner. People come to TGS because they trust what we do. They know that they're going to get what we say we're going to get them. So I think that's invaluable, and I don't really think there are any misconceptions about who we are and what we do.
What about the when you guys merged with your biggest competitor? Did that change the way that you guys go about things in any way, or change the way that you're able to solve your customers' challenges?
I don't think so. I think it just strengthened us, to be quite honest. We were two very similar companies in many different ways, both externally, how we did business, but internally too. We shared a lot of the same culture, values. So it was kind of a match made in heaven, dare I say that, if we were to merge with another company, because we had more similarities than differences. That's not to say that there haven't been challenges or things like that, but I do think that it was a good match. And I believe that the relationships that both of the companies have built over the last years will continue on and just be even stronger.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think that's where a lot of mergers and acquisitions fail, is the cultures are too different and they can never work together. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are quite, closely aligned. And I got another thing that you guys have in common is a 3-letter acronym for a name. So that's
true. We love our acronyms. We love our acronyms. We just had somebody new to the team, and this was one of the biggest challenges. There's acronyms for everything, from technology to companies to organizations to publications to trade shows. We should have like a manual that, here are all the acronyms you need to know if you get into the industry, because you have to know them and it's inevitable you're going to use them. So
yeah, I'm dyslexic, so I really struggle with it. But we had a friendly debate internally, and I said there's an infinite amount of acronyms. He says, no, it's not. It's really finite, because there's only so many letters and so many combinations. And I was like, yeah, but the thing you're missing is sometimes you'll have an acronym, but it'll have 3 different meanings, but the same 3 letters in the acronym. And he's like, oh, wow, my math just blew up. And we change industries a lot here. And so, one day we're working on oil and gas, and the next day we're working in life sciences. And it's like, you get a whole new batch of acronyms. I guess I'm thinking about the next 5 to 10 years. Where do you see your industry going?
The industry as a whole we're still going to be here, right? You need energy. I need energy. Our children are going to need energy around the world. It's kind of what I was saying earlier. It's here to stay. How we get it, and maybe, um, the technology we use to get it might change or evolve. But at the end of the day, we all need it. So, we'll be here. I do see the industry becoming even more data driven, and integrated. So, utilizing potentially different technologies from different industries to help advance, exploration and production. Um, that's kind of where I see things going. Again, AI, automation, digital platforms, everything will just be faster, hopefully, and hopefully make it less expensive for us. I don't know. That's just a hope, maybe. Smarter decision making across the entire energy value chain. I also think we'll potentially see a stronger convergence of traditional and new energy sectors. So, TGS diversified its portfolio a couple of years ago. We also provide insights for the wind industry as well as solar and CCS initiatives. And a lot of those industries, I went to a wind event, and it's kind of like a startup feel of if you go to a trade show, everyone wants to partner, everyone wants to wheel and deal, everybody's looking for how can we leverage the technology and success of the oil and gas industry and apply it to the offshore wind industry, which is fantastic. We should be partnering with the different types of energy industry. So I see more of that. And just working together to, provide more energy for the world.
Man, that is, I think that's really well put. And I think that you're right. Everything I've read is, that we're going to need so much more energy than we currently provide over the next decades. With the way AI is coming on board, it requires a lot of electricity, and we're going to need it all. And we're going to need it to be clean, and people need to not worry as much about the input that's coming in as opposed to the output that's going out. So, if you can take a dirty, what people consider a dirty energy source like coal, but you can make it to where you don't emit any pollutants on the other side of it, it shouldn't matter. It's all about how do we take those forms of energy and then make sure that people can, when they plug in their iPhones, they plug in, right? It doesn't. If you live in Houston, and I'm also a native Houstonian, and go Cougs, but one of the things that you'll quickly find is when you have a hurricane here, you realize how important energy is.
Can go out at any time. Yes. Sure. And energy, we're always going to need energy, but we're also going to need the insights to make those decisions. And that's where companies like TGS come in. You can, but you shouldn't drill blindly, right? You should know where you're going to drill a well. You should know where your next investment should be based on, the geological structures and all the things. And so having that insight is crucial. I read, or I heard, this may need to be fact checked, but back in the day when companies were drilling, I was watching some documentary, and they said that the first company, I don't want to name it, but it was a big oil and gas company, was basically drilling a bunch of dry holes before they found oil. And that's how they used to do it. And can you imagine if companies went out there today and started just drilling blindly holes in the ground and the environmentalists would go crazy, right? But that's why we have regulations, and that's why we have data and subsurface insight from companies like TGS, so that companies can make smarter, faster decisions. And I just think with the evolution of everything I just mentioned, that hopefully we can do things faster, cleaner, smarter, etc.
Yeah, I think, even we talked about from the environmental perspective, if you spend $300 million drilling a dry well and, emit all the carbon and, all those other things for nothing really, that really tells you the value of data. because they're working with you guys. They're going to know where to drill that next well and be able to maximize your production for sure.
Exactly.
I guess, so what are you guys doing from us? What tactics are you guys working on over there at TGS from a sales and marketing perspective, and how are you using AI?
From a marketing perspective, technology is really important. Everything from project management to ensuring that we are up to date on the latest AI trends, and making sure that we're just being as agile and efficient as possible. So technology is really important, especially in the digital marketing space. I mean, honestly, across the board, utilizing project management tools like Figma, for instance, can be a game changer for planning and strategizing and things like that. Making sure that we're organized is also really important. With a slightly larger team, you've got to, aside from the processes, you got to stay organized to be efficient and be able to scale content quickly. So, we use a marketing automation system. We utilize social media, our website, all the traditional marketing things. But I really do think, as you mentioned, AI has been a game changer. I was actually I was thinking about this before we started our podcast. I was on a panel 2 or 3 years ago, and somebody had asked the panel of marketing people, how do you think ChatGPT is going to change marketing? And all of us said, we don't really think it's going to change it that much. Because it was just coming out, it was just coming out. Honestly, I hadn't even played with it. It was like the second time I'd even heard about it. And now it's such a big part of our lives. And whether it's ChatGPT or Claude AI or Copilot, it plays a vital role in planning, ideation, and not necessarily like marketing slogans or things like that, but, structuring things like positioning documents or whatever it is that your team is looking to, get yourself organized and plan. AI is amazing for that. And it has become an efficiency. We've made efficiency gains because of it. We're able to do so much more. Back in the day, I probably would have spent an entire day putting together a plan, and now I can have AI help me do it in a matter of minutes. And that is invaluable, especially when the demand for marketing is so high. We need time to be able to create content. And then we have applications that we all use probably from a marketing standpoint, whether it's Adobe Creative Cloud or Canva or whatever it is that you're using, that now also have these AI plugins that help scale content within the applications themselves. And again, it just makes things easier for us. And it also helps with creative, finding new ways to be creative, because as I mentioned earlier, trying to cut through all the noise can be difficult, and you want to sound like your competitors. You don't want to look like your competitors. So how can AI help me create something quick? Because we have to get things out quickly. Can't take a week to get out a social media post, right? You got to be able to do things on the fly and have an autonomous setup as much as possible so that we can get things out ASAP. Have been just a game changer for us.
Man, yeah, that's I liked your story about the panel. Yeah, if you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago, I would have probably said the same thing. But now, man, we use Gemini here, and private instances of it for all of our clients, and I'm always going in there, and I use it every day. I use it every day for something.
There's also a lot of different apps that we've yet to explore. We had a session recently with an AI marketing expert. Who even knew, right, that these people existed?
Yeah.
They exist. And he was explaining how you can utilize AI and SEO in your SEO strategies. He was sharing with us, there's some really cool apps, like 11 Labs is one. There's a few others where you can create video content at scale. Like, we could get this podcast here, and just from those podcasts, probably create like 50 other podcasts at the click of a button. Yeah. And we could, give it a script, and it could be the Richard and Jaclyn show for the rest of the year with permission, right?
Sure.
There are some there are some, areas in which you need to verify with your legal team and compliance and things like that. We were joking, oh, we could put our CEO on a offshore rig now, and you really can do these things. And so I think one of the challenges within the energy industry is we're always kind of doing the same things from a marketing perspective, but we really need to be thinking outside of the box. Again, technical standpoint, we've got to be accurate. We have to be precise. We have to provide those insights. But from a marketing standpoint, the sky's the limit now with AI. And if you really want to stand out, you want to be one of the front runners to do it, right? Obviously, we want to do it tastefully and it's got to align with the brand and all those things. But there's so much out there to explore, and I find it really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It'll be really interesting to see where it takes us in the next couple of years, for sure. Because I think some of, like you talking about those video tools, they just started out and they were so bad. But now you look at them and you're like, hey, that's pretty good. VO3, have you looked at that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, go to YouTube and type in VEO3, and they're making these videos that are like street interviews, and it's 100% AI generated. And you look at it and you're like, that I would never know that was fake.
So we do a lot of things for fun on our team, and so one of our marketers created a video, and it was a newscaster. All of it was AI introducing TGS in a very unique way. You wouldn't even know it was real. So it's just amazing. I could go on and on about how cool AI is.
What advice would you give a young marketing person just getting started in their career? Just think about like a new young Jaclyn that was had to launch OTC after being on the job for a couple of weeks.
Marketing is so vast. I didn't even, looking back and looking at that first experience, I had no idea there was so much I knew it, you're taught it, right? But it's not till you're in it and you realize there's so much more to marketing. My advice would be to try everything. Don't get stuck in just doing one thing. If you're in digital marketing, go to event planning. If you're in event planning and you don't like that, try content creation. Try strategic marketing. If you're really analytical and, you're like a numbers person, I had no idea there was so much math to marketing. Because, if you're a robust team, you've got to be able to report on the return on investment of marketing, and that requires a lot of math. So,
yeah,
there's so many aspects to marketing. My advice would be to try everything. There's also ABM, account-based marketing. There's omni-channel marketing. There's so much out there. So that would be my advice. Everyone needs to know about a company for it to grow, and that's marketing. Whether you are a personal brand or working for a giant corporation, if there is no marketing, then there is no knowing what that company does. So it is crucial. It's a crucial role within the company that sometimes can be undervalued, not all of the time, but I think we're kind of like the ninjas in the back that are helping the company grow, because without it, it would be impossible for anyone to know who a company was without marketing. So try everything and do what you can to find your niche.
Oh, I think that's great advice. What have we not talked about that we should have talked about today?
I don't think there's anything, Richard.
We talked a lot. We're both world-class talkers. I do like your idea of the Richard and Jaclyn show for the rest of the year. That could be might be dangerous. I don't think the world's ready for that. Oh man. Well, it was wonderful talking to you today, Jaclyn. And if people want to learn more about TGS, where should they go?
TGS.com or find us on LinkedIn, TGS.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show, Jaclyn. It's always a pleasure. I love our conversation so much, and I really am glad that you're able to take time to be on this show. I know you're super busy, so thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing, sharing, or spreading the news about us on your favorite channel. Thank you for tuning into Above the Clouds, Stories from the Boardroom. Until next time, stay above the clouds.